Hello and welcome to Be Powerful with Liz and Lee. It's a new day and we're so glad you're here.
So you can expect to hear candid conversations on what it means to be powerful. Live authentically, live in the midst of ups and downs, productively, and above all else, joyfully.
We are so thankful for you, our community of listeners, and we hope you enjoy today's show. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Lee.
Happy day. How are you?
Happy on a
Good.
sunny day, sunny
It
spring
is
day.
a
We're good.
sunny, beautiful day. I love that. We are just still rolling on our new Be Powerful with Liz and Lee podcast, and I love it.
This is our third one.
Right?
We're still in the Blue Room. Do you guys like the Blue Room?
I do.
Yeah, we like it.
I do.
We never really gave them the COVID cafe thing.
The spiel about this.
The spiel.
room?
Give it the rundown on why this is the COVID cafe.
Okay, well, we needed to spice it up during COVID as we all did. You need a different place to go every now and then.
Yeah.
And so we moved our meals into
this-
here. So we would eat on this table kind of over there against the wall and take in a new view when we would watch the nightly news.
And it gave us somewhere to go.
Right.
We had
Kind of
different.
a real
Remember? Do
adventure.
y'all remember that having places to go in your house? Like,
Mhm.
oh wow, let's go to the living room tonight and have dinner.
Right.
Know? So anyway, I wanted to say that because we didn't
Okay.
let them know that before. So
Okay, the welcome to the COVID Cafe. Welcome to the
Yes.
Now podcast studio.
Mhm.
And I'm glad to be here with you.
Me too.
What we're going to do is, if you don't mind,
When have I minded? Let's see what you've got up your sleeve, Miss
Mhm.
Lee.
It's
What's
a
up?
game. And so we're going to
Ah.
start our podcast with sometimes light. We don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
This game is called, and you don't know about this game, it's called Two Things.
I never know about these games. I'm not a gamer. She is, and I learn as I go.
Right. So it's two things. And so on today's episode, I'll ask you two things, and it
Okay.
can be anything. And then you ask me back. You can steal my question. You can do your own. And then next week you get to start.
I have to come up with my own. Okay, cool. I'm ready.
Yeah.
But you're going to probably have to come up with all the games. I'm good at playing them.
The game is created. Now you just ask the question, but it's
Okay.
my turn. So it goes like this. So
All right, I'm
gonna
ready.
Say,
Here we go.
Liz, tell me two things you remember on the day Clary was born.
Oh, excellent question. The day she was born. Well, first of all, I had
When was it?
It was on July 27th, 1982, a scheduled C-section, which I was really disappointed in myself that I couldn't do that
Oh.
basic delivery. You know, I was one of those girls that thought you had to do the whole thing. Anyway, the two things I remember is being the only person on the maternity ward that did not have a baby. I went to sleep in the maternity ward, but two things I remember. Okay, back it up. Best part of my day. They rolled me in at 7:30. At 8:01, I had a baby in my arms. And the very first thing I remember about that baby in my arms was, and I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. See,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
just like, it's a girl. So I looked down and the very first thing I thought to myself and said, maybe out loud or maybe it was loud in my head, was, oh, it's you. I recognized her. And the second thing about that day, besides the fact that they had given me, morphine and all those sort of things, and I wasn't supposed to drink, and my brother brought champagne, and the nurses were really mean to me and quit giving me morphine, so I got into some pain. But the second thing I remember is them wheeling me from the operating room back to my room.
Mhm.
And you know how you have the babies in the little room, all the newborns? And the nurse held up Clary to the window, and I put my hand up to the window. Nobody ever believes this except the people that were there, which were my mother and my brother. And she put her little hand up. Her little baby infant just got born hand sort of like toward mine.
Like
Yeah.
E.T. phone home.
E.T. phone home. And so to me, that was really one of the most spiritual experiences of my life, was a recognition that I knew her, and I still know I knew her, and our connection immediately. So there's that.
Wow.
I mean, it was a fun day. I mean, except
Yeah.
for the nurses withholding morphine after I had one sip of champagne. But other than that,
That's
it's great.
funny.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was only one sip. Okay, so she was born. What day of the week was this? What day?
Monday.
She was a Monday.
Monday.
And so when you were saying you slept in the maternity ward before.
Yeah, like when you have a scheduled C-section, you go in the night before.
Right.
And so everybody else has got babies and you're the only
Got
one
it.
in there like massively pregnant.
Just waiting.
Yeah, and you feel kind of embarrassed.
Mhm.
I remember they used to have Anderson's restaurant
Yeah.
across
right
the
there.
street and going out to dinner. I'm like, this is bizarre.
Wait, the night
before I had,
okay,
no, I was
okay.
in the hospital, but they let me leave.
They let you go?
Yeah, this is, 1982. I guess rules are different. I don't know, but I went out to dinner.
That's
Came back, hopped in the bed, had a baby. I'm good to go.
and you would like stitched up C-section. You just
No,
went,
no. I'm saying the night before they
okay.
did the C-section.
Okay.
And then, and then I got to stay in the hospital, which you don't get to do anymore. But I got to stay in the hospital because, as all mothers know, that is your one time to get some rest with a newborn. And she was jaundiced, and she needed some help there. So she had all those treatments for jaundice, and I got to stay in the hospital and get some sleep.
How long?
A week. That was, again, 1982.
Mhm.
Insurance companies were not quite as evil as they are now, I suppose. But I did. It was fun.
Okay. That's fun. I wasn't sure. I kind of knew the moment in your book you kind of wrote about knowing her
I did.
the minute she was born.
I've always known Clary.
You'll have always had that connection.
Always.
And there's a lot of different things I think you remember on a day like that.
But you never forget that. I never forget the looking in her eyes, looking her directly in the eyes. And it was a mixture of excitement and relief. It was it was an excitement of, oh, wow, we get to do this again. This is great. I'm so excited to see you. And also a relief, like, oh, thank God it's you. Those were the two emotions I had.
I love that.
Was excitement and relief.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, you teed up today's podcast perfectly, but we're going to hold on to that because you address spirituality, and we're actually going to talk about that today. But now it's your turn. Two things to me. It doesn't have to be that. It can be anything, anything.
God, on the spot.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Okay, two things.
Make it simple. It doesn't matter.
Okay, great. Two things you like about spring.
Oh, I love that. Okay, obviously, just how gorgeous it is. I'm trying to think if there's a specific flower that I like the most. I mean, I like azaleas when they're in the big clump, but I don't necessarily like the way one looks. So I'm going to go with the dogwood tree.
Good.
I like dogwood trees in the spring. And there's just a sense of kind of hope and newness and a change out of a long winter.
Yeah.
I don't know if we had a winter or a rainy season.
We did. It's been
still kind of cold.
It's been great.
Yeah. So dogwoods and hope for, I think everybody can say that with spring. Kind of a turning of the corner.
Right.
A renewed
into the
sense
sun.
of happiness
Into the
and
sun.
sun. Yeah. Okay. So good job on the first game.
That was good. It was easy. I thought I was going to have to do math or something.
No. I'll be sure to throw a curveball
Yeah.
and we'll do some math problems just to get us going, us
Yeah.
going. But go back to that experience for you being spiritual about your one single beautiful daughter being born. Is that the first time where you really got spirituality? Did you feel it all your life? You're a spiritual person. I think most people who know you or listen to you know that.
Good question. No, that was definitely not the first time, but it was definitely the most
Powerful.
That was a good word. Powerful.
Huh.
Good. A powerful moment in my life. But again, I think spirituality, let's just talk about that. The reason we were going to talk about spirituality today, we've talked about, rebirth and all these things. Spirituality, because I'm older and because I've lived a long time and I've had more ways to learn about what I am and who I am as related to the divine whole, is that spirituality is a quest for truth. It's really not the truth outside of yourself. So spirituality is a quest for who am I, what am I doing here, and why. So looking at my baby's newborn eyes and going, a recognition was one of the reasons I realized then I was here, was to birth this child, this human. But spirituality itself, there's so many aspects of it. And we've just gone through Easter, and this is a big Christian ceremony and celebration, resurrection of Jesus Christ. I don't really practice Christianity in the traditional way. I do it in a very personal way because Jesus is my guy. And I believe that he existed, but I believe he was one of many.
Mm.
And that the rebirth in all of us is there, and the possibilities are shown by the paths of the greatest, like Jesus Christ.
Right.
And I believe that Jesus was the Christ, not that was his. I'm Liz Hilliard,
Right.
He
right.
wasn't Jesus Christ. I don't know what Jesus' last name was, but I think he was the Christ, which is the union, I believe, of human and God and the universal truth of us all. Does that make sense?
No,
of
it
course
does.
not.
No, it does. And where I want to kind of delve a little more is the difference between spirituality being the place where you can come to your higher self versus when and how and where do you tap into that Jesus or that higher being? Like, where's the differentiation of yourself versus a higher need in that plane? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I tap in it right now
Okay.
through my
All
breath.
the same.
Everything. To me, spirituality you cannot separate it from breathing, doing, being. I mean, you're spiritual, right?
Right.
And sometimes we're our ego, meaning a good part of ourselves, which is sort of the brain part of ourselves, sort of our mental aspect of who we are,
Mhm.
kind of gets in the way. I'm Liz Hilliard, but actually I'm a spirit being, Liz Hilliard, enjoying it very much, walking through this life in this physical way. And by simply looking at your own child, it doesn't have to be when they're just born and you recognize them or
Right.
something, but your own child, or looking outside of the beautiful day we're in, or even the rain, or whatever it is, and being present with that aspect of that moment at any moment in your life, that spirit. I think we try to do too much. We try to prove too much. We try to be worthy enough. I think that one of the mistakes that religion makes is that the grand prize is heaven.
Right.
I believe the grand prize is now.
Yep.
And that heaven is now, or hell is now.
Mhm.
And so I believe you can stand with feet in both worlds, and we know we can be going through the worst times of our life. At the same exact moment, we are also experiencing joy.
Yep.
And that may sound complicated, but I'll bet you every single person listening or watching this today with us on YouTube can relate to those moments when maybe a parent has died or someone has been hurt. And then you experience that incredible joy of the love that you feel for that person, or the love that you feel from other people simply caring so much for you.
Mm.
So,
yeah, I really feel that, because where I feel it sometimes is that sense of being moved, right? So it doesn't have to be when a negative or a sad thing happens. It can be those joyful times. It can be your question about what do you love about the spring. That's a real time I feel the most spiritual. I mean, the earth just feels like it's reemerging. And I think that's really powerful, because the way I kind of view spirituality is, for me, you talked about religion and institutions. I think there's a really good sense of having faith and hope and love, but sometimes I think that gets misguided and wrongly directed to like a human person or a human institution. And to me, I think spirituality is those things: a sense of faith in the world around us and the humanity in it, a sense of love of ourselves and our brotherhood,
right.
A sense of hope that there is something bigger than us.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, that's spiritual, and I haven't been in an institution and felt that. So it's been really freeing. But also, I'll say one more thing. To your point, being spiritual is being present. And I think I've always rushed kind of away from that. I mean, I think our culture is very linear and going to the next thing. And I think I get trapped in that and miss spiritual moments.
But I see you do it with your children. You'll tear up just because your pop will put his arms around you.
Yeah.
That's spiritual.
That is.
Right?
100%.
And something to be said about the institutions. And I think they can be really valuable because I've certainly had wonderful
For sure.
experiences in churches. We've traveled a lot together through places in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
And I've traveled without you. And I am not Catholic, but I can walk into an ancient cathedral and I always need to light that candle there.
Mhm.
And there's something about there is a presence there of so much energy of prayer
Right.
that has been in that space for so long. So I believe that's one thing that really draws us to our churches and synagogues and places of worship, because there is a space there that you feel,
Mhm,
you
mhm.
know, and you can feel that warmth and comfort of those spaces. But I will say that about one thing about the religious spaces we all, whether you're Christian or Jewish or whatever your religion is, especially in Christianity, I believe, I think some of that's been bastardized for political purposes.
Mm.
And this is a turnoff to a lot of people. It certainly is to me, but I'm older and I really do feel secure in my spirituality. But for those people that are seeking places to go and worship with people and to feel a sense of judgment because of whatever political views they may or may not share, that has become gosh, what's the worst word I can think of?
Mm.
It's the opposite of the teachings of Christianity. It's the opposite. It is not when you judge, when you say you must do these 4 things and you must be, straight, white, and whatever.
Sure.
Then you one of the worst parts of our society right now is exclusivity. And until we become inclusive, and that particularly is important about religious
Mhm.
structures, whichever religion that is, until the religious structures are inclusive of all people, then they're not, then they're fake, I believe. And
Okay.
so I think there's some fine places to go, but I see in our society and political structures now that they are using the one place where people can go and worship together. And a lot of
As a
times when they're
divisive
seeking,
nature.
right,
Yeah.
you need to go where other people are
Yep.
seeking also, but don't be literally preached to about how wrong you are or how sinful you are. I think the Christ on the cross with the blood, I think we worship too much about the death of Christ instead of the rebirth of Christ. And so that's why I always say I'm just sort of a strange Christian.
That's one way to put it.
I don't
Okay.
know.
I felt like there's a little bit of like baby thrown out with the bathwater. Like,
Okay.
can you be more?
Baby thrown out with the bath. You feel like I just threw out all of religion or all
Yeah,
of
like
churches?
every church. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Because I think a lot of places do tend to tell their congregations like you're living a life of sin if,
Mm-hmm.
and I think in a way that's okay if that
Really? Why?
because I think it helps people try to be better. I mean, I think there's a sense of grace that we're all human and make mistakes.
Oh,
And so
well, that's
you have an
different.
opportunity to, retry and re-wake up every day with a pure heart. So I just want to make sure that's not what you were
Well, that's totally different.
talking about.
Because
Okay.
sin, at least the way I define sin,
Mhm.
to me, sin is just simply away from God.
Got it.
There's being in alignment with God,
Mhm.
and then there's being out of alignment with God. And that's just the way I think. I'm probably not the
Yeah.
only one that thinks that. But if you say sin is smoking cigarettes or going to movies on Sunday, which, by the way, I came up in the First Baptist Church of Concord, and if you went to, you were going to go to hell. If
Yeah.
you went to the movies or to the racetrack on
That's
Sunday. And look, it's changed. And remember when the Catholics couldn't eat meat on Friday and now they can?
No,
These
that's still a
are
thing.
interesting. Oh, that's still a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they changed the rule.
I mean,
Anyway,
I wasn't in charge
it
of it. I
doesn't
know
matter.
that still happens.
It doesn't
Whatever.
matter. My point is these are man-made rules for
Correct.
for ways to be religious. So you asked me a minute ago to be specific. I'm throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I want religious institutions and faith-based places to be places of love, security, comfort, and help to
Mhm.
all of us that are stretching ourselves to see what's more besides me. You know, maybe it's the first time you've ever asked, what is there beyond my life? You know, what's after this, or what's more than who I am? I think we all have that universal question at different times in our lives.
Right.
Therefore, you need a place or people to go to help you. Well, what I've seen, I've seen, I think many of us have seen, is some of the greatest churches at least that in America, have been taken over by a political far right. And I say that because, and if it was the far left, I'd say that too.
Sure.
It's not being political. It's just they're saying, if you are gay, or you're even gonna be nice to gay people, you need to convert them. Meaning they're judging people on their own spiritual path, not including them. And they would say that they were,
Right.
but they'll include them in order to change them. Until we begin to respect and honor, I think, all paths, knowing that there are boundaries to those paths. We do not accept, and we do judge people that murder or maim or hurt, or hurt
Right.
people. That is not acceptable. But that's Jesus's teachings. If you just simply go back to Jesus's teachings, you hear it all. It's all right there.
Right. Well, that helps me understand. And
good.
I think that really cleared it up
Good.
on what you were saying. And I think that's important. And I
Right.
think wherever you go, if it's a place where you feel so moved to share more love, then that's a good place.
Right. But
For
I
you.
but I also love that some people, like, for instance, when I was a model, and I've talked to him about him before, one of my favorite people was a gay guy who, and this was the 80s, 90s, came out during AIDS, and his partner died of AIDS.
Mhm.
And he came out because he was traumatized and oh God, he was in pain because we were going through it when this guy was dying. And he still was a devout Catholic. And I asked him, and I didn't know anything. I mean, I was young. I didn't know anything about any
Right.
religion or anything. And I said, how is it that you're a devout Catholic? Aren't they exclusive of people that are gay? And he said, I know God is in there.
Right.
I just have to do it.
Wow. Yeah. Teared you up. And I think that's
Those are those moments. But you remember, so that's when love wins. So yeah, I get,
yeah.
when you have moments of grace where you feel, because I still remember him,
Yeah.
and how hard it was for him to come out in the 80s, because he was this gorgeous male model and all the women loved him, and he was in the closet, and then his partner was dying and he needed support. So he came out, and it was my first experience with that.
Mhm.
But I was like, wow, he chose love. So he just pushed on through all that other stuff, because there was still that place where he could go and feel this presence of God.
That's so important.
Yeah. And so the easier we could possibly make it for people like him, or me, or you, or anybody
Anyone.
listening, the easier you can make it as a religious place for people that are not necessarily willing to change who they are, but to love them anyway, and to not hold them in contempt because of their lifestyle, their choices, then the more you are walking the path
Mhm.
of the divine.
Mhm. And what a powerful recognition for him to be able to say he knows there's God in there.
Yes.
And I think that's the most
Yes.
important part, whatever your God, spirituality, passion, movement is to find it and have the faith that it's there,
Right.
because we are fallible and life is challenging.
Right.
And you need that groundedness
Yeah.
and that love, because we go back to it all the time. I mean, we're just want to feel love and acceptance.
Love and acceptance. And it's funny because I mean, when I was a little girl, I've
Uh-huh.
talked to you a lot about this because I came up in the First Baptist Church of Concord, North Carolina, where, you're going to go to hell if you drank. Yeah, I'm already burning apparently. But so I didn't believe it. None of it I
Mhm,
believed.
mhm.
So I was a young baby child, little tiny child, just listening to this and not believing any of it. So I decided as a teenager or whatever that I was an atheist. Obviously, I'm an atheist because I believe none of it, right? So, but I found a spiritual teacher. And sometimes you have to get outside of your religion. Sometimes you have
Mm.
to say, no, be an atheist for a minute. I don't believe God's going to punish you for this.
Right.
Question
Everything. And that's what you said last
everything.
week.
Question everything. So I remember, and I found a religious teacher not a religious teacher, a very spiritual
Mhm.
person who made it literal. And she's not a Christian person at all, but she made it very, and I'm just going to name her. It's Gloria Kopinski, which I really am also very moved by her journey in life. And she's one of the great spiritual teachers of my life. And if you want to read her books, Barefoot on Sacred Ground, and I can't remember the second one, but she's quite adept at explaining spirituality to people that are really questioning themselves. She actually brought me back to the Christian faith because I really loved going to the Christian church. I loved Jesus. Remember, I learned all the
We
stories.
know.
They were beat into me with the Bible. I know the stories and I loved the stories, but I couldn't
Right.
believe it. And I couldn't believe that the ministers and the deacons and the people in power in the church were telling me that I was wrong about how I felt. And so, not, wrong drinking, going to a movie on Sunday. Excuse me. No, God doesn't give a shit about that. I knew that.
So you think.
So I hope I'm counting on it. Right.
Well, I mean, but that's kind of the point.
Yeah, but what the point is that I'm going to make here is she helped me recognize we're all divine. And that if we can go into a place, we don't have to believe every single thing they're saying.
Mhm.
We don't even have to agree with what they're saying. But what we can do is if you've ever been in church and they're singing a hymn and there's that breath in, that breath out, there's that feeling of unity.
Yep.
That's spirit. And unless they're saying gays are going to hell and stuff, go. Unless they're saying if you vote for a Democrat, you're a dog with a tail, rethink it. But if they're really doing the best they can to preach the gospel of love and divinity and forgiveness, and they're not pointing the finger at you because you're black, white, gay, whatever,
Mhm.
then go, because you will find that place, that community that we all need. We all need that acceptance. And if you don't feel comfortable in a church, which I actually don't right now,
Right. I was going to say there's a
I
lot of.
haven't been to church because I'm really right now really tired of political power wielding whiteness and maleness and the let's just go ahead and say it, the patriarchy. And it can be in male and female form.
Mhm.
The patriarchy is not a man, it is not a woman. It is the patriarchal one way might is right way. And that is ruling right now our political and, to me, many of the religious institutions of America. So therefore, I opt out.
Right.
But I look for a community, which I'm a physical fitness instructor, right? I'm not a preacher or a spiritual advisor, but
Well,
a
not by
community.
name, maybe, but I mean, you are those things to anybody who wants you to be that way. You're
Exactly. And
in a
that's who we are.
place.
And that's what Jesus said. He said, be a disciple. And it's not being a disciple for some cause. It's being powerful in who you are and being an example of love and acceptance to everyone. And that's
Mhm.
what, if I do that with one person in my life, I'm good to go. Right.
Right.
And that's, I think, what we do.
That's what I try to do.
That's what we try to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I believe that you and I both are fully worthy of sitting here talking about spirituality when this is not
Right.
our framework of work. However, it is. It is. Because we're spiritual beings living and breathing in a physical body. And we want that physical body to be as strong and powerful as it can be so that that divinity can be spread throughout and people can be reminded of who they are. They're not just that physical beingness.
Mm-hmm.
They're divine.
Well, and I think that gets lost in the human world that we have when things matter more than feelings, when being a certain way matters more than being who you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? The car, the house, the anything.
Right.
When that becomes the priority above anything else, then it's hard to be spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
and then you go to church and go. If that's all you got,
sure,
if you're
because
struggling.
I think that like a habit of doing one thing to open the door for more spirituality to come in different realms of your life, then great. I mean, to your point of question everything and try new things, that it's very simple to do one thing different, to go to a different church, to be with a different person, to be quiet.
Be quiet. We said that last podcast too.
True.
And that's what I try to be. It's hard.
Really?
It's quiet
Okay.
now and then, but especially
Well, you do that on your own, I think,
do
a lot.
It's the only way I get to sleep because my brain, like everybody else's that's listening, just turns into some kind of a monkey war at night. Like there's just monkeys like fighting for attention and they're swinging through the vines. And I'm going, we all need to calm down and go to
That's
bed.
funny.
So that's where I try to do the deep breathing and the alignment with my higher self, God. And I do all these visuals while the monkeys are swinging in the trees.
Oh my gosh, I saw the visual and I'm sorry for you every
Yeah.
night.
It's life. Yeah, it's life with me. I mean, I live in this visual world and in my brain, it's really interesting. I
like
know
it.
it is in yours too.
Exactly. We've all got lots of different
Yeah.
things in there
Yeah.
and it looks a lot of different ways. But I just hope that everybody can find a way to realize, what is it that makes me feel moved, aka spiritual? What is it that makes me commune with other people? What is it that makes me feel on a different, higher level, higher power?
Oh, can I just say that for a minute? It's that communion.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason I love movies. God, I love movies. I even like bad movies. I just love movies. So Clary and I, remember we used to always go on Sundays. Now we've roped you in. Now we don't get to go
Now we
anywhere.
don't go.
Yeah, but we watch it on Netflix. But I mean, I can really cry in a movie in the most unusual time. And it's sort of a communion with the character. Like you're like, I get it. Or those commercials, remember
Right.
people cry in commercials? It's not that you're emotional. You're just sort of feeling it. You're in that communion with that feeling or all that stuff that's going, all the pain and suffering in the world and the horror that's going on in Ukraine right now. And I'll see a picture or gosh, what's that picture right now? They got all this strollers and stuff. They keep showing it.
Yeah.
Those things are moving,
Yes, because it helps you see
the
pain when sometimes you're not having it. And if you have a human soul, like that is true suffering that helps you. I mean, there's not much you can do at this moment right here sitting at this table behind this microphone for everyone going through pain in the world, but to express those emotions and go through them.
The feeling of empathy with another human being,
Yeah.
with empathy with an animal, with anything, with the sight of a flower or a blooming tree, communion with the whole, right? So to me, spirituality requires this feeling of connectedness, communion, the way you and I feel, right?
Right.
Don't we have a communion? And
Yeah.
don't we also empathize sometimes with maybe others that question or you just
good point.
empathize with others that question anything?
Right.
I mean, I almost really enjoy people that completely disagree with me because it's fascinating to me. But I can still commune with them on a divine spiritual way because I know that we are the same. We're just walking in different forms.
And that's, really that first two things question that I asked you that I had no idea, would be such a spiritual answer about that one of your first communions and spiritual moments was with your daughter. And I think whether that's your human child or your fur baby or your partner, that human communion connection is so incredible.
Incredible and strong. Don't you think we're better because we commune together?
Yes. Yes.
Exactly.
I love that.
And so the more we can be together with others, without having to disagree. Do you agree with me all the time?
No.
Exactly.
Well, and that's to your point of being uncomfortable that we've talked about recently, is being uncomfortable is like the deepest place of change. So when you commune with someone who is so different from you, that's got to be a more powerful experience.
Yeah. That space, that chaotic space sometimes, that unresonant. Is that a word? Not resonant. You're not resonating with this person. What is that? You want to be in communion with that person, but it's hard. So therefore, what do? You find creative ways. And then if you can find creative ways to commune with really your enemy, I mean, you can really say it that way, then all of us are in a better place. Then world peace can happen, right? It can at least happen in your home. It can at least happen with your partner. In yourself first, and then with your partner and your children and your family and hopefully your outward community.
I love that.
Right. So
there we go.
Spirituality.
It's good stuff.
Well, it's who we are. And I love being spiritual with all of the community that my small world is at Hilliard Studio Method. And actually, it is a pretty large world with all of our people all over the world that actually work out with us. And I feel responsible to that, to be truthful and authentic and real. And I know that it's an extension of who we are. And that's why it's a good success.
Right.
Let's live our truth. I mean, that's the whole Be Powerful concept of this whole podcast. So that's spirituality, baby.
Hope you got something out of it.
I hope so too.
No, it was fun. I think it was fun and important to just talk about it and see where it goes. I'm glad to know how you feel.
I'm glad to be here.
Me too. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Love you.
Love you. Thanks for listening to us today, wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, you can now find our podcast on YouTube.
Yeah. If you liked it, please share, rate, and review. We love 5 stars. And we hope you'll work out with us online or in studio at HilliardStudioMethod.com.